I've been thinking a lot recently about, like, things that can't be articulated. Like, the other day, my jazz piano teacher, her name is Michelle, she's the GOAT, she told me the swing feel, the way you articulate the eighth notes, and obviously all of it in jazz music, but especially the way the eighth notes are articulated, is, swing is not just a simple thing that can be graphed in Western notation theory, and you can't even intellectualize it too much. Because it's the space between where Western music puts one measurement and another. So you can't really write down how a member articulates the line unless you use this weird kind of Spanglish of Western music notation and a non-Western music notation, which is hard and most people won't get what you're saying because we are here in the West. But basically it's somewhere between the triplet divided into 2 and 3 and like kind of the regular articulation that we deal with usually in the Western world. We do put up with not having swing. But basically, in having these thoughts, I've thought a lot about things that like can't be articulated or can't be notated between cultures. And I've come to this fun conclusion, which is good to know, which is that the things can be articulated in actually whatever language you think you need to articulate it in. You just have to make art. You can communicate anything, and you can strike past all the little layers of communication right to someone's soul, you know? You can convey concepts that are cross-culturally impossible to convey just by making something and making it good and making it work. It's kind of crazy. Like, and this is why I think that, like, art, what we make and what we share, is so divine, you know? Because if you can communicate in any language, then, you know, even concepts that are inarticulable, you know, like stuff that you can't say in language, are communicable. And what is the constant image of God is you can't see God's true form, or you'll burn up, you'll go up in flames. You can't see the true form of God. You can only see articulations because it's impossible to do that without burning up. You're getting too close to the divine. It's a concept you physically can't understand. And this is where eldritch like beings like Cthulhu get their shit, you know? And where like translators get all of that, like the fact that you can't translate a poem in another language without a creative translator who's probably also a poet. It's kind of wild. Like, I've been reading all this like Russian formalist theory because I really like the way they think about art, and I think it's a Shklovsky point, is that, oh no, this is actually I'm forgetting her name. She's a new researcher. Oh yeah, Alexandra Berlina, who wrote about Kurvonnegut, is basically talking about how, I'm going to use the word ostranany. I think I'm saying that right. It's a Russian word that has been used in the past, translated by scholars of Russian literature that write in English, as a bunch of different words. You got estrangement, which are different, and then you've also got defamiliarization, other shit like that, kind of a bunch of different translations of this word, but she tries to just stick with the initial word, because the actual meaning of the word ostranany needs a little bit of like a story behind it, because it's that powerful of a word. Like, and it means like that feeling when an alien culture sees another culture through its lenses, you know? And the classic example of this is in Tolstoy. I'm forgetting which book, but it's when he describes all the things that we do to a body after it's died, and he's like, oh, well, we take this dead old body, and we toss it in a fresh, good, new, piece of wood and we stick that shit underground and talk about it while doing it. Like, what? What could that possibly mean? And this is how it works. It draws attention to the things in your own culture that you don't understand are funny, you know? And I think that's really an interesting concept in Russian work, is that you can't be just translating shit, basically. And this is a really important thing to think about, because this is essentially the concept of mindfulness, is that we waste a lot of our power by not noticing how great some of the things around us are. And whoa, there's a truck. That being mindful of exactly what is happening is actually super duper powerful. And okay, this is stupid. This concept is core to mindfulness. Tolstoy, which is who the Viktor Shklovsky, who was one of the big guys of Russian formalism, takes kind of his point from. Viktor Shklovsky takes his name from Tolstoy, which is that basically when you do this in your art, you're calling attention to things on purpose. You're making the stone stony, you know, like making it real, making it something, urging people to bring back to their senses and actually think through everything. Because why wouldn't you? Because of course you would think through everything, because you need to, because you're being mindful of the world around you and it's right there and you can feel it. And how great is it that we have snow, you know? That's what I'm saying. That's the Russian formalist thing that I think is most beautiful, is that's what art's about, is making everything sensationalized, you know? And I mean that in the kindest sense of that word. But I was just thinking about definitions and how we define things and what's up with specifically that. I mean, I've thought a lot, and I think I've come to the conclusion that I think the only true way to communicate deep experience of culture, of anything, to translate, like really, not just of culture, but to translate our words into very sharp daggers that go straight through everyone's little language barriers of what they know. That's what an art object is, which is insane. Like, and this is why it's not a universal language, because you can't communicate across all the cultures at once. And you're speaking in a tongue that's just completely different than regular language. You're truly communicating. And that's what I think art is. You can make something real again by describing it on terms that are not strictly the ones that we usually use for it. You can't make something real again by describing it the way that it actually works. And I think this is why most Instagram poetry fails, and why people don't like Atticus or whoever, I don't really know, is because, like, there are so many poems out there that are just so training wheels and kind of bland, because they're not descriptive. And there's so many of those because poetry is its own language, and you kind of have to speak it. Like, it matters that you speak the poetry as you're saying it. It matters that, like, it matters that you're really trying to speak poetry, not just speak English. And, like, there was this Instagram poem that was like, I feel so sad when you don't post me on social media. And I know it doesn't mean a lot, not to you, but it means a lot to me. And it's like, sure, this is actually a really interesting thing to write about. But, like, it can't just be, I feel sad. It's got to be like, my heart spins half wide in digital fractures. some shit like that. I don't know, poetic shit. You can't just be like, look at me, guys. I said I feel X, Y, Z. I don't know. At least that's not how I feel. You can do that for sure. I just think it'll be bad. Because you're allowed to do whatever you want. As like a human person, you can do whatever you want. It's pretty great. And I'm thinking like, poetically, you can't just say something, because art is expression. This is what I'm saying about swing, is there's some expression there, you know, like of a culture. And art is also an expression of a culture. But the thing about art that gets kind of insane is that art kind of taxidermies experience and hangs it up and makes it palatable. And one of the things about Ostraneni that I really like, the Russian formalist concept, is it can't be translated because it means this very specific thing in Russian that we need here. And there are just so many of these concepts that can't be translated because of cultural differences, but also because it's impossible to communicate across small cultures like identities, you know? Like, it's really hard. And that's why I think the power of any art, any real insane art, like power art, is you gotta make strange the things that are close and make close the things that are strange to you culturally. It's about becoming aware that you are just kind of one of the many things. It's like a deep plurality of everyone. And I don't just mean that in the sense of identity groups. I mean that in the sense of identities like being young or old or tired or fucking the minority of something, whether that be like a regular kind of unchangeable state or whether that be a real emotional state. Like, you need to be mindful of what's here, and you need to think of it strangely, and you need to make what feels strange to you all of a sudden so familiar. That's what it's about. It's about moving things between degrees of closeness to you. Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane? You can move the way that a thing is around you with a piece of art temporarily for the piece of art. And you can think about that, and you can think about how the best writers point out shit that you would have been like, what the fuck? Like, point out shit in your life that you do, that you think, or that someone else thinks, or that you've thought about someone. And they put it on full display and just let you be shocked by it and bring you in or push you out. And there's something really beautiful about that, I think. And I don't like the fact that some art doesn't want to speak the language of art and wants to speak in plain language, because like we've established, you can't say everything in plain language. You can't philosophize forever. You have to one day come down from your tower and be like, I really like this. I'm gonna make a painting of this, and it's gonna be so true. And when the painting is true, you're like, yes! Like, because there's someone else with you, and it's social, and it's beautifully social, and you don't actually deal with the issues of this idea that artists will sit all day in their rooms and do nothing but their art, or be obsessed somehow and like forget about everything else, is insane. Because the world is art, and you can't run your engine on no fuel. That's something else I think, is that you need to read books if you're a writer so much, and you need to listen to so much music if you consider yourself a musician, because it's just unbelievable how inspired you can be by something, and how trying to just run your engine into the ground because you're not getting as much in as you are out. And that just feels really sad. And it's been a place where I've been in my life, and I think it makes people want to quit. But you need to be ready to have your in-out be a lot. Because true inspiration is only gained by just constantly taking in shit. Because you need to be taking in shit, otherwise you're just, like I'm saying, running your engine on no fuel. Like, okay, I need to summarize. I think people need badly to take in a lot of art, and I think people need to understand that what they're doing is they're speaking in a divine language that is glorious in a different way, and that the word of God is said to be untranslatable. Like, you can't translate that. If you see God, if you see a God, because I want, like, cross-culturally, you can kind of see a bunch of different polytheistic or monotheistic religions, and so obviously it's better if I just, like, talk about that too, because if you say a God, I know this is a concept in Greek mythology. If you see God in Christian understandings or Jewish understandings, then it's always that you can't see God. You can't see God, because if you saw God, you would burn. Like, actually. Like, you would be made to ash by the fact that God is not articulable. You can't articulate that intellectually or even articulate it physically with eyesight. But, so, when you speak something inarticulable with your piece of art, you are using something divine, because if you tried to articulate that, you couldn't. And this is one of the things with eldritchness too, because they're also very numinous, is eldritch beings make you feel powerless because they're so inarticulable. Like, that's one of the core elements of those books. Because inarticulability scares people, because it's good. You need to be scared by it. Yeah. Basically, the word of God is inarticulable, and so many things are inarticulable, but you can speak the word of God, or at least closer. Like, if it's 3 tiers, you can be in the middle and God's on the top. Like, you know, you could be closer to God. You can speak a more divine language if you speak in art. And this is why I want to devote my life to it, is because I'd rather speak in fucking sick divine language, you know?